Hi, this is Dina with the Rhode Island Wave, and I'm here on the Coastal Queen with Captain Dan. Captain Dan, how are you doing today?
Very good, very good.
We're just getting our season started. How long have you guys been out here doing this?
We started this year April 1st.
Nice.
Yeah, we were just doing weekends, but we're about to go 7 days.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Good. So, how long have you been captaining a boat?
I've been captaining a boat my whole life, but I've been running this boat. This will be my 4th summer. The boat started about 4 years ago, so I started with the boat.
Awesome. All right, well, I'm looking forward to taking the tour. Anything I should know?
It's going to be a beautiful day out there. It's nice and calm. A lot of sailboats racing, and you'll enjoy it. It'll be a nice day.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wood Harbor, out into Rhode Island Sound, down to Castle Hill Light, across to Conanicut Island, under the Newport Bridge, back around Rhode Island, through the harbor, back to port. We have Captain Dan driving the boat today. We have Tina behind the bar, making your favorite beverages, alcoholic, non-alcoholic. My name's Ronnie. I'll be your tour guide. Any questions you have along the way, please feel free to ask. Pass an awful lot of things. Don't talk about all of them. One quick safety announcement. Life jackets clearly visible overhead downstairs, under the red cushioned seats upstairs. In the event of a real emergency, just follow directions of the crew. We'll get you safely into a life jacket. Take care of whatever situation comes up. Nothing to worry about. You see the big church over there with the gold cross on top? That's St. Mary's. Site of the wedding, Jacqueline Bouvier, John Kennedy. Okay, left-hand side of the boat, you see the white building there at the end of the long pier. That's the Ida Lewis Yacht Club, formerly the Limrock Lighthouse. You can see what's left of the little lighthouse there on top of that yellow roof screened-in porch. No longer in active aid to navigation, the lighthouse is lit May through October, out of respect for the longtime lighthouse keeper, Ida Lewis. The Burgee for that yacht club has 18 stars. Each of those stars represent a life-saving rescue performed by Ida during her long career as lighthouse keeper. I would encourage you to Google the life of Ida Lewis. She is an amazing woman in American history that nobody knows anything about. Okay, the big house there you see, long sloping lawn, green and white awning, giant tent in the front yard. That is the John Nicholas Brown House, built by John Brown, founder of Brown University. In the early 90s, that property was for sale, destined to become condominiums. 3 members of the New York Yacht Club purchased it, donated it to the club. That now serves as their summer station. Right here in Newport, very active social and sailing club. They are right in the middle, or actually at the end of their 169th annual regatta. They raced Friday, Saturday, as well as today. We should see, actually they're starting to roll in now on the left-hand side of the boat. You'll See a bunch of sailboats coming in, probably heading over to the yacht club. Okay, skipping down that shoreline, past those two little summer cottages, you see a great big mansion over there. That's called Bonnycrest. 13 chimneys. Each of those chimneys shaped like a bottle of Liam Perrin's Worcestershire sauce. That's not an accident. Thomas Duncan had that home built for his wife. He named it Bonnycrest, and he was a principal in the Liam Perrin's Worcestershire sauce company. Now, I hate to tell you this, but in the beginning of the early 1900s, this was the relatively poor side of town. These were harbor view estates, not ocean view like you'd see up on Bellevue Avenue. So they would throw Australian parties. At one such party, she had a sandbox built in the foyer. As her female guests arrived, she gave them a shovel and a little pail. Encouraging them to dig in the sand, what do you think they found? Diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and pearls. So maybe it wasn't the poor side of town after all. We're looking at Goat Island, named Goat Island by the colonists because that's where they kept their sheep and goats. During World War II, there was a torpedo manufacturing facility out there. 13,000 men and women worked in that factory in support of the war effort. It's also the final resting place for 28 pirates. During the colonial times, pirateering was getting out of control here in Newport. King of England demanded something be done. So the colony rounded up 32 pirates, tried them over in the courthouse in Newport, found 28 of them guilty. They marched them down to Long Wharf, where they hung them. They brought their bodies here to Goat Island, where they buried them halfway between the high water mark and the low water mark. Now for a mariner, this is your worst possible fate. You are neither at sea nor on the land, and it is said that your soul can never rest. Okay, we're passing the Newport Harbor Island Hotel. That was sold last year for about $180 million in the fall. The new owners are going to run it until November, when they're going to close it and do a $30 to $50 million renovation. So I think that's going to be the place to be here in Newport for quite some years to come. Okay, the lighthouse you see over there on the right, that is the Goat Island Light, or the Harbor Light. You can go home now, tell your family and friends you've seen the only lighthouse in America, probably the only lighthouse in the world to have been run into by a submarine. In 1921, the United States Navy, number 4, was negotiating that harbor entrance, got a little turned around, crashed into the lighthouse, destroying the 2-story keeper's cottage that used to sit just this side of the structure you see there today. Pretty safe to say that the Navy submarine service got off to a rocky start here in Newport. Okay, right-hand side of the boat, you see those yellow markers in the water over there? That marks the site of an archaeological dig performed by the governments of Australia, New Zealand, along with the Herreshoff Museum, right here in Bristol, Rhode Island. They have discovered the remains of the ship the Endeavour, which was sailed by Captain Cook when he discovered Australia and New Zealand. There are plans to raise that wreck, take it to Australia, put it in a museum where they have a full-size replica of the ship the Endeavour. Okay, right-hand side of the boat. See a little island there? Tina has an island for sale. You've already got some neighbors. You've got a house, got a half a flagpole, got about maybe a third of a flag left. All you need is a roof and a pesky little check for $80,000, and that's all yours. Before you go down the there and Venmo Tina the money, I gotta give you full disclosure. There has not been anything there since the '38 hurricane destroyed the lighthouse that sat there. Looks like we got a wedding going on over there at the Officers Club at the United States Naval War College. That complex of buildings you see there with the long vertical windows, all the flags, that is the United States Naval War College. Home to the War College itself, as well as the Chaplain School and the JAG School for the Legal Eagles of the military. That very fine school of higher education is open to men and women of the military, foreign and domestic, as well as diplomats and some civilians graduate from that institution. That is something that we are very proud of to have here in Rhode Island. It is really one of the gems of the Ocean State right here on Narragansett Bay. I told you about the Torpedo Factory back on Rhode Island. That's where they manufactured the torpedoes. On the right-hand side of the boat, you see an island right there in the middle of the bay. That's called Gould Island. That was actually owned by a Harvard professor, the football coach, Mr. Gould, until the Navy wanted it, and they took it away, and they turned that into a torpedo testing range. They would build the torpedoes back on Rhode Island, bring them down here to Gould Island, where they put a dummy charge in them, fired them. If they ran true and straight, the Navy would retrieve them, arm them, ship them off to whichever theater they needed to be used in. At the beginning of the war, they had a dismal less than 20% success rate with those torpedoes. By the time the war ended, the men and women of the Navy had worked that up to the high 80 percentile. Pretty amazing when you think of the rudimentary technology they were working with at the time. Okay, Captain Dan's going to take us under the center span here of the Newport Bridge, or the Pell Memorial Bridge, as it is officially named after our senior statesman, Senator Claiborne Pell. 2,000 feet longer than the famous Golden Gate Bridge spanning San Francisco Bay. 215 feet tall here in the middle, very tall. The reason for that, when the bridge was built in the 1960s, Rhode Island was home to the Quonset Naval Air Station, as well as the Newport Navy base. The Quonset Naval Air Station housed 2 aircraft carriers, the Navy base, a destroyer squadron. Those vessels needed to be able to transit the bay on a moment's notice, hence the height of the bridge. Nixon himself actually did extensive training at Quonset on his way to becoming a commander in the United States Navy. Narragansett Bay also named another president, President John Kennedy. When he was injured in the Pacific, he was transferred back to Melville, the base just behind us on Aquidneck Island, where they built most of the PT boats used during World War II. Captain. Well, that didn't sit very well with the young officer. He petitioned his superiors to be transferred back to the Pacific to an active theater. They granted his wish, and that's where he served out his time in the military. The beautiful Rhode Island lighthouse, typical of light New England, late 1800s. That sits on the site of a fort that was built in the 1700s, Fort Hamilton. Named after Alexander Hamilton, close personal friend and advisor to and President George Washington. Still a very active aid to navigation here in Narragansett Bay. If you would like a very unique vacation experience, they for rent there. It's owned by the Rhode Island Lighthouse Association. This is a house on the rocks, or clingstone. That was built by Samuel Wharton, nephew of Joseph Wharton, founder of the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, as well as a little steel company called the Bethlehem Steel Company. Back in the 1800s, this was the northernmost extent of the Wharton family property. Samuel built that there in 1904. He enjoyed it summers until 1931 when he passed away. His family enjoyed it until 1938 when the biggest hurricane ever to hit New England came rolling up the bay, rendering the house uninhabitable. The birds moved in. They enjoyed it until 1962 when an architect from Boston purchased it for the back taxes, $3,300. He proceeded to fashion it into the beautiful 10-bedroom, 10-bathroom house today. That place is for rent, about $10,000 a week. Not too bad, considering you can bring 20 of your closest friends. They had better be close friends, though, because there's only one way on and one way off. That's Rhode Island's own little version of Alcatraz. We are looking at Conanicut Island, named Conanicut Island after the chief of the Narragansett Indian tribe, Conanicut, the indigenous people that lived here when the colonists arrived. If you look down to the left, you'll see the beaver tail shining her light on us. That is the third oldest lighthouse in America. There has been a lighthouse there since 1740. Prior to that, the Narragansett Indians, the indigenous people, used to light signifiers there. As we make our way out into Rhode Island Sound here, just be a little careful as we move about the boat. Yeah, if we kept going on this course, 1,200 miles, probably hit the Bahamas. 20 degrees to the left, Bermuda. Another half a mile out, take a hard left, past the islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. Next stop, Portugal. Left-hand side of the boat, you see the big mansion there. That is the inn at Castle Hill. Probably the most iconic spot here on the East Passage of Narragansett Bay. Beautiful inn, exquisite dining, sitting in those lawn chairs, having a cocktail on a beautiful sunny afternoon like today. Could be one of the greatest spots in the world. Originally built by Professor Agassiz from Harvard University. He built it there because he felt like it would be the best place for him to study marine wildlife. And I don't think the location disappointed. Okay, Captain Dan's going to take us in nice and close to this lighthouse that you see. That is the Castle Hill Light. He had one condition. The light from the lighthouse would never shine in his bedroom windows. So we still have a very active aid to navigation here in Narragansett Bay. It marks the eastern edge of the East Passage to the bay. Okay, there's a nice view of the Castle Hill Lighthouse, right-hand side of the boat. This is the most photographed lighthouse in Rhode Island, so you should probably take a quick pic. See the turret room up there under the dome? That's a two-room suite that was frequented by Grace Kelly during her many stays here in Newport before moving on to become the Princess of Monaco. Okay, right-hand side, see the place with the twin towers? That's Ocean Cliff. Today, that's a very popular hotel, restaurant, and wedding venue. The beautiful house you see there on the right with the red accents. Hard to believe, but it's only occupied July and August. The rest of the year, those folks have it closed up tight. Okay, the big yellow house you see there in the woods, that's called Broad Lawn. That was owned by one of the mayors of Newport during Prohibition. So what do? It's Prohibition. You own a place like that, you're the mayor. Put a casino on the first floor, speakeasy on the second floor. We have some young people on the boat today, so you're going to have to figure out what they did on the third floor all for yourself. Then what you do is you go out and you hire your younger brother to be your head of security. Your younger brother's day job, chief of police, city of Newport. There's a movie out called Bootlegger. It features that beautiful mansion, and it stars Leonardo DiCaprio as the mayor of Newport. This property on the right was once part of Hammersmith Farm that we'll see coming up shortly, and it's been preserved forever by the Newport Land Trust. Speak of the devil, here comes Run Runner on the right-hand side of the boat. She's also in that movie. She's a local tour boat. She is a 100% restored rum-running boat that ran moonshine on the bay during Prohibition. right-hand side of the boat, coming into view, you see the beautiful Hammersmith Farm, that magnificent red roof mansion up on the hill. That was the summer playground for one young Jacqueline Bouvier. Site of the wedding reception, Jackie and John Kennedy. 2,000 people attended that reception right there on the lawn. Little boathouse you see here by the water. If you've seen The Great Gatsby, you've seen that boathouse. There's a famous scene of Robert Redford staring out over the water, filmed at that location. The lighthouse, or windmill-inspired property to the left, designed by Jackie, given to her mother as a 25th wedding anniversary present from her husband, industrialist Hugh Auchincloss. To the left of the lighthouse building, you see those are the stables where they had their polo ponies back when Hammersmith Farm was truly a magnificent Newport estate. See the yellow house on the hill there? That's the Eisenhower House. Summer White House for Dwight David Eisenhower. He liked that location because it's right across the street from the Newport Country Club, where he enjoyed spending his afternoons playing golf. The historic cemetery you see there in the foreground, those were all men and women who died either during construction or while on active duty at Fort Adams. Right-hand side of the boat, beautiful Fort Adams. Started construction 1799, finished about 1852. Built primarily by Scottish and Irish stonemasons, very, very talented men, as you can see from the masterpiece they created. We are looking at the western facade right now. You can clearly see where the cannons were, top, middle, bottom row. Top row fired 2 cannonballs tethered together into the cane, fired at enemy ships in an effort to demast them. Middle row fired grapefruit. The bottom row fired the most feared weapon of all, red-hot cannonballs launched at the wooden ships, designed to set them ablaze. The irony of all of that firepower, Fort Adams fired a shot, nor had a single shot fired upon it. As we make our way around the north facade here, this is the dress facade. If you look through those iron gates, you'll see up into the parade ground, which totals approximately 6 acres, making it the second biggest port of its type here on the East Coast. That is also the site of the stage for the Newport Folk and Jazz Festivals, held back-to-back weekends here during the month of July. Today, Fort Adams is a state park open to the public. Great place to go, take a little walk around, maybe have a picnic lunch, take a tour of the fort. It is very impressive the closer you get to it. Okay, the tall ship you see over there, that's the Oliver Hazard Ferry. Looks kind of old. She just had her 11th birthday. That is Rhode Island's tall ship. Her primary function is education. They take a lot of school groups, young people, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. They take them out or they spend the night there at the dock. Give them a little taste of what life was like at sea, 17 and 1800s. Okay, if you look just over that brick building there, you see a house in the background. It's between the brick building and the tall ship, the Oliver Hazard Ferry. Kind of a red roof. Stone building. Looks like they're doing a little construction on the first floor. That's called High Point. That was built by J.P. Morgan. Later in life, that was owned by a sculptor from New York City named Felix de Weldon. His most famous piece, the beautiful bronze statue of the 5 Marines raising the flag over Iwo Jima. Actually, it wasn't 5 Marines, it was 4 Marines and 1 Navy corpsman. If you do want lobster while you're here, this is a pro tip. These people do not pay us to say it. Both Captain Dan and I lobster for a living in a different life. Get yourself over to the Newport Lobster Shack. That is a cooperative of the local fishermen right here in Newport. They catch it, they cook it, they serve it to you along with their families right there on the pier. Absolutely fantastic. As we do make our final turn, you're going to see a couple more 12-meter yachts. They'll be on the left-hand side. The first one you'll see is US 22. That has all the guys standing on it now. That is Intrepid. She was a 2-time winner of the America's Cup. Just a little bit further ahead of that, you'll see Weatherly. She was a 1-time winner right here in Newport. Okay, thank you again for choosing the Coastal Queen. For those of you traveling today, we wish you safe travels to your final destination. For those of you staying on here in Newport, we would encourage you to take in all the sights and sounds that our fair little city by the sea, Newport, has to offer. So on behalf of Captain Dan, Tina, and myself, thank you again for choosing Coastal Queen. Have a wonderful evening here in Newport. Looks like it's going to be continued good weather.